So yeah, I'm starting my stream out like Jerry Seinfeld. What's the deal with airplanes? People are pooping on them and crashing them. Ugh. So yeah, so Delta again in the news from Tuesday. Delta passengers stranded on remote island told to be grateful they didn't crash. That's some great customer service. So I heard about this one a few days ago. So the passengers went on social media and they basically found themselves stranded on an island for 12 hours in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. And I mean, they didn't crash. They had the emergency land. So they took off from Ghana, and the flight was diverted. I guess they were headed towards New York to the island of Terceira. Terceira. I'm fairly good at geography. I do not know that one. So they had a mechanical issue with the backup oxygen system, and they had to land, and it sounded like they landed into Fire Festival. Yeah, so they landed on this island while they repaired the plane, and one of the passengers posted that they experienced a reckless disregard for human life and well-being. So hundreds of stranded. I mean, that's a big jet. So I'm to fly that distance. So they landed on this island, and they were basically like treated to the Fire Festival, where they had no food, no. They said they had to drink water from bathroom faucets until a cafe opened because they got there so early. And the only thing they got were ham sandwiches, and I guess they had a lot of Muslim travelers, and they can't eat ham. Sounds like not a train wreck, but a plane wreck. So, anyways, yeah, these people got stranded in an airport for half a day, and basically just got, they were told, hey, we didn't crash. Good job. So, that's really all the news I have for today. I just kind of wanted to talk about a few silly things, but I am very open to continue to talk. Lisa T. I read this story online, and another story was about a flight where someone vomited 30 minutes before landing, causing a chain reaction, leading to 30 people resulting in a cascade of vomit down the aisle. I will never be the same after reading that. Holy crap. Yeah, vomiting can definitely cause a chain reaction. I have an iron stomach, so it doesn't affect me, but I totally empathize for people that get set off by that. Let's see, from the Puffling, there was an article about Air Canada yesterday kicking a passenger off the plane because they refused to sit in a vomit-covered seat. Is that much to ask? Like, clean up the seat? I was on a boat in Hawaii, and someone starting on the opposite side of the boat, and it started going around the boat. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are very sensitive to that. If you hear just the gagging noise, I mean, that could set people off for sure. Air travel's ruined for all of us. I mean, really, isn't it? I mean, there's reasons, but I flew a lot before 2001, and I had a pretty big gap where I'm trying to think. Yeah, I flew in 2000. That's when I went to the UK the first time. That was a school thing. And I didn't fly again until like 2008. And comparing to flying in 2000 versus 2008 were two very different things. Like, I remember as a kid, one of my grandmothers lived in California, so she would come and, kind of visit both sides of the family back and forth, and we would walk on the tarmac. We'd go into the plane and help her get seated. It was it was like whatever back then. So now it's like I like getting places faster, but that's the only advantage. I hate flying, like just going through the whole everything involved. Oh, speaking of, part of the reason I told this story, so I have a personal story. So I mentioned flying in the year 2000 versus flying in 2008. So I had a pretty big gap. I was in college, grad school, all that. So in 2008, I do have an airplane story. I drove cross country. My roommate did not want to ship his car, so I was like, "Hey, I'll go cross country. I've got some time off." Had fun. We drove. literally cross country. He picked me up along the way. He started in D.C., picked me up in Virginia, and then we went all the way to Vegas and then L.A. Had fun, blah blah blah. When that was all said and done, I was going to fly home, so I flew back and flew out of LAX, no issue, and trying to remember where I landed in Texas. It's been a bit. I think San Antonio. So flew out of LAX to San Antonio, no big deal, small plane, and then I flew from Texas to Tennessee, and that was how I got home. And so the airplane from Texas to Tennessee was one of the smallest planes I've been in. Not the smallest, but it was like a turboprop. I mean, it probably sat like 16 people or something, and it barely had a bathroom. And I was sitting almost in the back. I was by myself. The plane was mostly the plane was mostly empty, and there was like another guy like diagonal from me, like a row or two ahead. And we're getting ready to take off, and so the guy he presses the flight attendant button, and the lady comes back to talk to him, and we're so close to takeoff, and he's just like, hey, he's like, I gotta go to the bathroom, and she's like, well, we're about to take off, and he's like, well, I have to go to the bathroom. She's like, well, you have to wait until we reach altitude, and the pilot turns the seatbelt sign on. He's like, I can't wait. He's like, I'm going to shit my pants. And I'm sitting there. I'm very close to this situation, so I'm starting to get worried. And they argue back and forth, and she's just like adamant that like you cannot go in there. And it was a weird bathroom. It's kind of like one of those charter buses where it's like you almost have to assemble the bathroom, like it all flips up. And although no, it wasn't quite like it. It was just a small one. It was a full-on door, like one of those accordion doors. And so they argue. He acts like, all right, well, fine, I'll just wait. And then we start to take off. She goes back to the front, sits down, and then as soon as she's out of sight, he unbuckles and stands up and goes into the bathroom. And I'm sitting there like, uh-oh. Like, I don't think he's supposed to do that. And I see the flight attendant. She's looking around. And then I think it's as we're taking off, she looks over and her eyes get huge and she is pissed. So she actually unbuckles and comes back. And I'm the only one close to it. So she's like, where'd he go? And I'm just like, and I point to the bathroom. And then she starts freaking out. So she runs up to the front and then comes back with like a notepad and wrote this guy up. I guess it was like a full on like TSA like complaint. I don't know how all that goes, but basically the way I interpret it is this guy took a dump that broke federal law in the air. So that was pretty amazing. And that was my trip to California. So I'm looking at the chat. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I do get driving. A lot of times it's just easier to drive. Yeah, write me the dang ticket. I know, it's like poop your pants or pay a fine. I don't know how serious that got, but yeah, I think I would take the ticket. Anybody else have some flying stories? I'm trying to think if I have any more. That's definitely the most ridiculous. And of course, whenever something like that happens, I'm always alone, and there's nobody else to witness it. Let's see, Tracy. I was on my first international flight to London. Someone passed out, and they said on the intercom, "Is there a doctor on the plane?" Oh yeah, especially a flight that long. That's scary. What a great story. Thanks for that. I've got so many poop stories. It's not on purpose. They're just funny.